I do apologize for the fact that I have to be in here today. Usually I like to be out in the cube farms in order to do these videos, but I'm kind of busy at the moment. I do want to get several videos done today, preferably. So I'm just going to kind of go through these. One thing did want to do, this is going to be just kind of a quick overview of several games and things that caught my eye at E3 and my personal thoughts on them. I wanted to add one thing right off the bat. I'm actually kind of glad, in a weird way, that several people requested my thoughts on E3, because if not, my thoughts would have consisted of Usher played at E3, and then I would have just kind of walked away and not looked back. But there were several things that did actually catch my eye. Now, this is not a complete list. As most of you are probably aware, the information at E3 was just kind of all over the place. I'm pretty sure I missed a few things. So if there's a game I don't mention, it's probably because I just missed it, or it is also possible it didn't catch my attention, because I just looked and was like, yeah, okay, and moved on. So, and that I'm not trying to be, against that. I'm just, these are my opinions. These are the games I can actually form opinions on and actually talk about briefly. So, let's go over this list really quick. First of all, I want to make special mention to a movie trailer that came out at about the same time called Wreck-It Ralph. I know. Believe it or not, I actually probably am going to go see that. And by go see that, I mean when it comes out on DVD, get a hold of it and play it there, because I sincerely doubt I'll have the time to see something in the theaters. But it looks better than it has any right to, and it does look amusing, so I probably am going to see that at some point. I don't know, it looks entertaining, and it looks relatively lighthearted and amusing, so shrug. Now, first game on the list, Watch Dogs. I was blown away by Watch Dogs. Everyone I know has been blown away by Watch Dogs. It looks amazing. I have heard one person describe it as essentially cyberpunk done properly. I have heard another person describe it as Ghost in the Shell in a video game format. The only complaint I've heard so far is the mini-map doesn't really gel with them, but otherwise the game looks amazing. It looks fluid. Looks like it has great flow. The missions look interesting. It looks like you have several options for how to perform your missions. I like the hacking, or whatever it's actually called, interface. It does look very intuitive. The combat looks enjoyable. Everything about the game just looks fantastic. That was a very out of left field game, and I am very much looking forward to it. My only regret, my only down thing I could actually say about it, is the fact that other than that trailer, we basically know nothing. Don't know when it's coming out. Don't know if they just started working on it. Don't know if they've been working on it for a while. We don't know anything. So, I mean, maybe more info is coming out soonish. I don't know, but either way, definitely very psyched about that. Next game. These are in no particular order, by the way. This is more or less in the order that I found them to write down and just scribble some little notes really quick. Scribblenauts Unlimited. You can make fun of me if you want. I always found the Scribblenauts series interesting. If anything, I found the first one to be too limiting. And so, while I played a friend's copy of that, I never picked it up for myself. And the Scribblenauts 2 came out and had more options and had more freedom and more words that I could accept, and so I'm okay. I'm with that. And now we've got Scribblenauts Unlimited, which is supposed to have even more words and even more flexibility in how to solve puzzles and what like that. And I like that idea. I like that concept of, here's a puzzle, solve it in multiple ways, I like a game that is done in that style properly, excuse me. And so I do like that kind of. That's not the kind of game I'd buy new, but it's definitely something I would be interested in otherwise. Next game, Castlevania, Lords of Shadows, Mirror of Fate, which wins the reward for longest title at E3. It's a 3DS handheld 2.5D game for the new Castlevania reboot, and it gets an automatic plus because it's a handheld and it's a Castlevania. I did actually enjoy Lords of Shadows. I know I'm like the only person I know who enjoyed that. Well, one of two, but I did actually enjoy the game. I enjoyed the story quite a bit. I enjoyed the voice acting. I enjoyed the combat. And the 3DS game looks like a lot of the same. One of the things I do like is while they're bringing back the free-roaming exploration aspect, they aren't doing it in the same style that it usually is with the Metroidvania, where you get a power-up which allows you to extend your reach and go to new places. Instead, what they're going to do is have different people, different playable characters, who, with their innate abilities, can go further and do more. Which sounds like an interesting concept. We'll see if they pull it off, but I am looking forward to that. New Super Mario Bros. U. That's a game that I probably will pick up used because I plan on playing it single player, and the reason why is I played New Super Mario Bros. Wii with my friend Gary and with my sister. And if any of you don't know, those games are platformers, Mario Bros. Platformers, that have collision between the characters. And if that doesn't sound like a horrible idea right off the bat, then yeah, just think about it for a moment. Just think about the fact that you're trying to do the same level and the same puzzles at the same time, but you have collision with one another. And if you don't know what that means this right here. This is collision. If this is character A and this is character B, and it runs in, they will be essentially running into a wall and they go plummeting to their death. And a proper game does it like Donkey Kong Country Returns did, where there is no collision. You just jump here and you're like this, and you know, and you do that, and that works a lot better. Sorry I'm a bit jumpy. I have several customers here in the building right now, and I may be called away at any moment, actually, because they've been having issues over there. I can't tell what they're doing. So I'm watching the cameras over there. I guess I could check here as well. I apologize for the delay here. It has been a bit of a hectic night. Whatever. So anyways, my point being, New Super Mario Bros. U certainly looks like a good Mario game. It looks like it's interesting, but it's something I'd play single player, and it's something I'd play later. And keep in mind, the Wii U is something that's very, 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 very low on the list for me for consoles, because thus far there's one game on it that actually interests me, and this is it. And it only interests me a little. And as I've said before, a game library has to determine a system, so shrug. Next game on the list, Dust 514, or 542, or 514 rather, or however that's actually pronounced. I never heard it actually said, but it does look awesome. This is not actually the first I've heard of Dust 514. I've heard about it for quite a while, for like a year at this point, I think. It's something they've been planning to add to EVE Online for quite a bit of time, and I'm glad they're finally doing it, hopefully. It sounds something amazing. You know, if I was really into EVE, I'd be very psyched about it. And I would definitely pick it up and definitely link it to my EVE account and do the space battle, combat battle thing. It looks like a lot of fun, and I like what I've seen. The new Paper Mario. Now let's just be clear here. I have thought for many years that the Mario RPGs, starting with Super Mario RPG and all the way up to the Paper Marios and the Game Boy Mario and Luigi games, are incredible. They are incredible, amazing, fun, fantastic games that I enjoy replaying a lot. And one of them actually sits in that art category, in my opinion. That'd be Paper Mario 2, in case you're curious. So I've been very jazzed about the new Paper Mario ever since they first announced it. And now that we've seen a lot more about it, it looks just incredible. I don't want to go into too much detail, because everything I'd just be saying is this, and it looks awesome. This, and it looks awesome. This, and it looks awesome. I'm very jazzed about it. It looks incredible. I'm very much looking forward to it. ESO. I'm still very hesitant on ESO, Elder Scrolls Online. They did actually have some gameplay footage. They did actually have some engine footage. The engine is very clearly not Elder Scrolls, and that is fine. The Havoc engine, you know, it's very clearly not the Havoc engine, or at least not the same Havoc engine. Maybe based on it. I don't actually know the details here, but visually you can tell it is distinctively not. And I don't know. I'm still very hesitant about that game for many obvious reasons. Not the least of which being the fact that the gentleman they were interviewing to talk about that. I might be getting a call here in a second. Yep. That's standard. How can I help you? Alright, cool. I'll go ahead and lock you up in a minute. Bye. I don't think that's worth an edit. Sorry, guys. I don't feel like spending 20 minutes editing out 1 minute of conversation like that. I'll go fix his racks in a minute. Point is, the guy that had doing the interviews and discussing the issues was really just dodging the questions a lot, and did they leave? I don't think they left. It was dodging the questions a lot. He wasn't actually giving straight answers. He was trying to sell his game without actually saying what his game was about, you know, all that kind of thing. And that always just puts me off. It always makes me think no. So we'll see. I'm very hesitant on that. Darksiders 2. I admittedly was already planning on buying Darksiders 2 because I really liked Darksiders 1. It was one of those hidden gem games that just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It's this very weird combination of like mostly God of War and a little bit of Zelda and just a tiny bit of Devil May Cry mixed in. It actually works really well. So I really do enjoy it. Did enjoy it, I should say. And I really am looking forward to Darksiders 2. But the actual combat gameplay they showed, gameplay and combat that they showed looks great. It looks very engaging. It's very Darksiders, of course, but it is just enough distinct that you can really tell that you're playing death rather than war. And of course, the move to a new horseman was a very logical one. Rather than just have you play war again, having you play one of the other horsemen made perfect sense, and I like that. So next point here. I've actually been asked about this a lot. The new Tomb Raider. Now, let's be completely clear here. I think the idea to make a grittier reboot, I think they're actually gone, a grittier reboot to the Tomb Raider series was a good idea. I mean that sincerely. Ah, it's the chairs. Okay. They're officially gone. Sorry, guys. Okay. I do think that was a good idea, to do the gritty reboot. I do think they went way, way, way too far with it. I think they went past gritty, they went past darker and edgier, and they went right into unpleasant and horrifying area. I will not be playing that game, which is a shame, because I was liking what I saw as far as, you know, concept and the direction they were going, and then I saw that they went the direction far too much. Now, I'm sure some of you out there will be getting to that, but it's very visceral. It's very realistic violence, which is not pleasant. It is very realistic gore and blood and situations, which is not pleasant, and I just don't get into that at all, and I never will, and so I think they went too far with it. And I think, I know I'm not the only one who has this opinion too. I've discussed this game with at least 3 of my friends who actually cared enough to look into it, and all of them said basically the same thing. You know, okay, dark and edgy is great, but you do it up to here, you know, you don't do it over here. So, not really liking what I see. If they'd pulled it back about to here, that would have been great, but Injustice, Gods Among Us looks more entertaining than it has any right to. It's, I probably won't pick that up myself, to be completely honest, but if several of my friends want to pick it up so we can play it together, we'll probably go in on it, and that sounds like a lot of fun. It's, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, it's a fighting game, and it's a fighting game with the DC people, and from what I understand, there is actually a story behind it, which sounds cool, and you know, I like fighting games that actually have story behind them. I know, weird, right? And so I am kind of looking forward to that, just a little bit though. That's probably either a get it used, or get it on sale, or get it with my friends deal. Not going to be a big one. Lego City Undercover. I don't know if I've said this on these reviews or not, or on the Q&A. I am actually really a big fan of the Lego games that have started up the last several years. You know, Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones. There's a Lego Lord of the Rings coming up, which I'll mention actually next after this. And so I've really always gotten into those games. They're actually really well designed. They're actually a lot of fun. They are interesting. They are engaging, and they're very. There's this wonderful sense of almost parody about the whole thing. I feel like I'm quoting someone on that. But there's just this sense of lighthearted, yeah, let's go have fun, you know. I don't even know how to explain it in words, but a Lego open world game where you play that undercover cop and all that sort of thing just sounds fantastic to me, and I'm really looking forward to that one. Speaking of which, Lego Lord of the Rings. Again, I don't have much to say to this, but I have loved all the previous Lego games, and I will be buying this one as well, because it looks awesome, it looks fun, lighthearted and cheesy and amusing. Guardians of Middle-earth. Any of you who know what Dota is, or Defense of the Ancients if you prefer, or Ion of Strife if you've been around long like I have, or Mercs and Techs if you've been around even longer, that is a game that, it is essentially League of Legends, I guess, is the one most people nowadays would recognize, game for Middle-earth setting, and it does look amusing. I do like that type of game in general, always have, ever since Mercs and Techs. Back in the day, back in the 90s, early 90s, but, you know, that kind of gameplay does appeal to me, and so I don't know if I'm going to pick that one up necessarily, but it does look amusing, and it's one I would like to pick up. Let's see, what else we got here? PlanetSide 2. I was just having a discussion with a friend of mine very recently about what a shame it is that MMOs tend to be MMORPGs. There was a very brief time there where a lot of people tried things that were MMOFPS, MMORTS, MMO side-scroller, you know, a lot of those things were attempted, and virtually all of them failed, including the original PlanetSide, which is a shame because the game was actually a lot of fun. The problem was it was so unpopular that the world was just empty, and you would get to a battle and it would be a battle between 3 people on both sides combined, and that was a huge problem. I don't know why it failed. I'd have to research it more, which I didn't do for this immediately, obviously. But I'm hoping PlanetSide 2 gets somewhere, because I like that concept. I like the idea of an MMOFPS. I like the idea of an MMORTS. You know, I wish more people would do something that isn't just an RPG. I get it. It can be done well, but you could do more. You know, much as I hate to say this, MapleStory, one of the reasons, in fact, the only reason, let's be honest, MapleStory caught my eye was it was an MMO side-scroller. And, you know, basically no one else had done that. And of course, you know, no, I don't play MapleStory. I have played it, obviously, just because, like, I played everything MMO-wise, but I didn't like it per se. I just loved the concept, and I wish, like for example, oh, I don't know, Mega Man would have done that. Oh, that's right, they did, and then they canceled it because they're stupid. But let's just move on here, shall we? I'm getting off track. The Last of Us. I really like the concept of Last of Us. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up, but I love the concept, and the reason is very simple. Too many post-apocalyptic games, or zombie games, I really should specify here, focus on the zombie aspect of the game. Last of Us, at least from my understanding, does not have any zombies. It just has the survivors of a ruined world, and that by itself is an interesting enough concept to me that I think I can carry a game by itself, and it looks like it has a lot of potential. You know, I'd call it the Mad Max thing, but let's be honest, Mad Max was always a little over the top, which is part of its charm. But Last of Us sounds a little more down to earth, possibly too far down to earth. Again, I haven't seen too much into it, but either way, the idea of that survivalist gameplay and trying to actually eke out an existence and having to struggle with other people for your, there's just something interesting about that. I'd call it the Metal Gear Solid thing because that's really where I started to enjoy that type of gameplay. But I know there was something else before that. And when I say Metal Gear Solid, I mean Metal Gear Solid 3, by the way, the on-site procurement thing. But let's just move on. Dishonored. Which one was Dishonored? Shoot. Oh, yes, that was the Assassin's Creed one. I hate to call it that, but that is what it looked like. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, Dishonored is essentially a steampunk Assassin's Creed, but it looks really cool. It looks really fun. It looks like what Assassin's Creed 1 was, except more, and taking out the unnecessary fluff. You know, actually planning out the assassination, actually planning out an escape route, and then executing it, and then working on the fly if you don't do things properly and you screw things up, and having a few tools and gadgets on you in order to manage it in case you do screw up. It looks really cool, and I love that concept, and so I really have high hopes for that game. I have for a while, though. This isn't the first time I heard about Dishonored, but, whatever. There is a new Epic Mickey game coming out on the 3DS. I don't know actually a lot about it. I didn't see a lot about it, but I did enjoy Epic Mickey quite a bit. So, hopes there. And that's another tick for the 3DS, which just keeps getting more and more games for it. Speaking of which, New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS, which finally has co-op, which basically guarantees that I'm going to pick it up, because at least one of my friends is going to pick that up, and I love playing those kind of games co-op, so there's that. And speaking of Assassin's Creed, I probably should have reorganized this a little bit. Assassin's Creed 3. Now, after Revelations, I believe, the most recent one, which I found to be a little bit disappointing. Still a good game, but just nowhere near the level of quality of the previous ones. I was a little hesitant, especially when they kept releasing gameplay trailers about Assassin's Creed 3 that were cutscenes. Guys, that's not a gameplay trailer, but they showed a lot of actual gameplay, and I really liked what I saw. I really liked the ship combat and the way they handled that, the way you actually, can steer the ship and maneuver it and fire it and all that. Using the context-sensitive button mechanic to enable you to control the ship and all the crew on it is a fantastic idea, and I love that concept. So Assassin's Creed 3 has kind of inched its way forward from, I'll think about it, to I am probably going to buy this. New, I should say, because I'm definitely buying it one way or another. Speaking of Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, I believe that's on the Vita. Vita? I don't know. And that makes 2 games for the Vita that have actually caught my eye. Now, I've said before, the Vita does not interest me per se, because it has one huge mark against it, and that's the fact... I'm sorry, it has like 3 huge marks against it. The one is the fact that it's the Vita. I'm sorry, that's mean. No, one is the fact that it's way too expensive, and 2 is the fact that it has that anti-used game thing. And I don't remember what 3 is actually off the top of my head. But it has, let's be honest though, the PSP took a long time to justify itself. The PSP took a long time to get enough of a library of good games and great games in order to actually justify itself. So I'm giving the Vita a bit of a, I'll watch you for a few years and see where you go. And right now there's 2 games. I actually can't remember the other one off the top of my head, which is unfortunate because it was a good one. But anyways, this is the other one. Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation looks very interesting. It's the one with the female assassin, which I actually am glad they did. As I've said before, like 7 times at this point, I like female protagonists that are not female protagonists. They are the protagonist who happens to be female. And that seems where they're going with this, and that's cool. I like that. I love that idea. There have been, in lore, if you pay attention to the backstory, there have been plenty of female assassins who are significant. So, hey, great, love it. next game on the list, Resident Evil 6. There's definite potential with this one. They have the 3 characters, which supposedly will have the 3 styles of gameplay. I don't know if that's actually going to work out that way, but that is the way it is intended to be, and if they do, that'll be awesome. And I've always been a sort of off-on fan of the Resident Evil series. You know, I'll play one of the games, and it will be interesting, and then I'll play one, and it will not, and then I just kind of bounce back and forth, if you know what I mean. Excuse me, and so it will, I liked 4, for example. Let's just use a direct example. 4, in fact, is probably my favorite of the Resident Evils. Resident Evil Nemesis would probably be the next one, and Code Veronica, despite having some screwed-up issues, was very enjoyable. And then we have Resident Evil 5, which was kind of terrible. But not because of the quote-unquote racist thing. I don't think that was racist. I'm sorry, I'll just go on record right now. I don't think that was racism. I think anybody who was saying that was making way too big of a deal out of absolutely nothing. But just the game was bad, so that was fine. I could bash the game for just not being enjoyable. But Resident Evil 6 looks like it's on the right track, and looks like it's going to be going back to the good game thing that Resident Evil has done before. So, really hoping for that. Next game, God of War Ascension. Now, unfortunately, the only comment I really have to give to this is it looks like a God of War game. But let me say very clearly, very sincerely, that is a compliment. I love the God of War series. I always have. God of War 2 would probably be my favorite if I were asked on the matter, but I do own both of the PSP games. I own all 3 of the other games. They are great games, and so the fact that we have another God of War game is not a bad thing. As long as it's still a great game, I'm with it. So, very interested in that. I'm very looking forward to the storyline, the prequel of sorts thing going on, explaining how that's going to evolve from his past and before, the horribleness happened. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I know I keep saying that a lot, I'm very much looking forward to that, but it's true, there were a surprising number of games at E3 that I really liked, and that I really am genuinely looking forward to, so I'm glad I just looked into it. Thank you, people, for requesting that I do this, otherwise I probably wouldn't have, like I said. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Okay, now let's just get this out in the air. I don't have anything against Raiden, not really. Part of that, indeed I would say most of that, is because of Quentin Flynn, who is an excellent voice actor. He is, I'm sorry. In my opinion, Quentin Flynn is a fantastic voice actor, so he successfully salvages that character for me from being intolerable to being acceptable. I don't like him, nor will I ever probably, but hey. Now, that out of the way, I will say one positive thing about this game. The combat does look interesting in a sort of Devil May Cry sort of way. It does look a little over the top, if I'm honest. And I don't even know how to explain that, because Devil May Cry itself, for example, is all about being incredibly flashy, incredibly fancy about your moves. But, I don't know, Revengeance, I can't even explain this properly in words. It feels like it went too far. It feels like it went a little too... I almost call it the Michael Bay effect, but that's not it. Like, when you have a movie that has awesome special effects, like, let's say, The Matrix 1, right? I don't have a second example, but just if you're following me, The Matrix 1 had its effects and used them properly in the context of the story to enhance it, right? Movie B over here, I don't know, I don't have an example right now. You know what, let's go with a slightly different example, which will be the Star Wars prequels, most especially Episode 2. This movie, instead of using this massive amount of CGI and the effects in order to enhance the movie, did it to smother the movie. And it becomes clear that the focus is not on the story and the characters and the development like it was in The Matrix, which is augmented by the effects. Rather, it is on the effects, and look at all this flashy stuff, It's the same concept here. Devil May Cry, especially 3, my personal favorite, has always felt like something that is really emphasizing how awesome the combat is, and the interesting story, and the developing characters. Yes, I know they aren't that well in-depth, but the characters do develop over the course of the game. More so in 3 than the others, in my opinion. However, Revengeance feels like, look at this awesome stuff! Look at this awesome stuff! And it just goes a little bit too far for me. Now, I will say one other thing against Revengeance, because I actually watched the whole trailer in sort of this stupor of silent horror, like, oh my god, is that... And the reason why is because it was terrible. The music choice was awful, in my opinion, and the narrator was one of the worst narrators I've heard in my life. And he sounded so bored, and at the same time trying to sound epic. And I'm not even sure I can emulate it right now, And in this game, you can go do some stuff, and then you do other stuff. I can't emulate it. I can't do it. I don't even know where to begin with that. But it bothered the crud out of me. I finally put the trailer on mute, and that's not a joke. So, anyways, I'm going to stop bashing the heck out of the game right now, and to move on. Let's see here. Speaking of Devil May Cry, the new Devil May Cry looks terrible. I do not like what I see. It looks like it's going completely the wrong direction. None of the... let's be honest, Dante was always very much a smartass, let's just say it like that. He was always someone who was not actually legit. And nowhere is this more obvious than in Devil May Cry 4. The wonderful scene which he has between the scientist guy, whose name escapes me at the moment, is one of my favorite scenes in that game because it's done over the top on purpose the right way, and it's actually pulled off well, and the voice actor actually pulls off the maneuvering in his voice, I should say, properly enough so that it doesn't sound hokey unintentionally, which is usually bad. It sounds hokey intentionally, which can be good. It's a very fine line there of actually and pulling that off. And so Dante has always been that, right on the edge of just intolerable, but he actually pulls it off really well, and has for most of the games, except for 2. Actually, I don't remember 2's scenes at all, to be completely honest with you, so I don't know if he did or not. My point being that Dante in this reboot sounds like a punk kid who makes me want to smack him every time I see him. And the fact that the first thing that they show is this squid, tentacle, slug, ugly... I don't know why I added squid. Sklug? Yes, there we go. We're going to call that a sklug from now on, because I don't have a word for what that thing was. That just cusses profanity at him, and looks disgusting, and pukes all over him multiple times. That's not pleasant. Nothing there sounds interesting to me, and while the combat looked at least alright, the combat has to be absolutely astonishing for me to get into that. Oh, and also has to have the option to skip cutscenes. And so the long story short here is, no, I'm not getting into that new DMC unless it really improves itself quickly from that point. If that's like right at the beginning and then Dante actually turns into, I don't know, a character sometime during the duration of the game, which has happened, let's be honest. Prince of Persia has done that more than once, where the guy started off as a twat and he became a character. Diablo 3 managed that too, but I'm not talking about those right now. The new SimCity looks incredible. I love it. Was always an old fan of SimCity. I know that's a weird jump, Devil May Cry to SimCity. I was always an old fan of SimCity. I really enjoyed creativity, and I enjoy building, and I enjoy making. I always have. And I loved what that game let you do, especially SimCity 2000, which I'd probably say is my favorite if I was, made. What's your favorite SimCity? SimCity 2000 was awesome. But let's be honest, we haven't had a SimCity in a while. I actually didn't look this up. I meant to look this up, but it's been at least several years, and I've been having a SimCity craving lately, but my only options are to go back and play 3 or 2000 or whatever. Because they just haven't made one in a while. So it's awesome that they're making one, but it is also awesome that they're making one that looks actually good. It is a little too cartoony in my opinion. I can live with that, though. I'll live with that. That's fine. As long as the gameplay is interesting, which it does look. I do like the fact that they're doing the visual data thing, instead of just having the chart that says, here's your happiness, here's your crime, here's your, they will visually give you clues, which you can then look at that and then say, okay, well, this is at crime at 15% in this area, blah, 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 blah. I like that. I like the fact that that option exists, especially for people who are, prefer to have something a little more dynamic to look at rather than a chart. So, good stuff there. I like the pseudo-multiplayer thing. I've always liked that concept. It's basically building on something they did back in SimCity 3, where you'd have the neighboring cities, and you could, make trash deals with them, or set up interstate to get traffic going, or get an airport going. There's all sorts of things you can do with them. It's the same thing, except you'll be doing it with other players, so it doesn't matter necessarily if they're online or not. And in fact, it doesn't matter at all, per se, because the interaction isn't direct and immediate, if you follow me. So I like that. Let's see. Next game on the list. Neverwinter. Ironic, because I've already mentioned this, I think, in one of my Q&As. I have not liked what I've seen about Neverwinter, and when they showed the actual gameplay footage, I liked it a lot less. It looks dated, it looks bland, it looks boring, it looks disinteresting. The narrator sounded like she was falling asleep during the narration. What she was talking about didn't sound interesting, which is hilarious, because this is Neverwinter set after the Spell Plague, or whatever it's called, for anyone who follows Forgotten Realms and the story there. So, how can you manage to have that and not have it sound interesting just automatically? I don't understand that. But it sounds very... what's a good word? It sounds very amateur. The whole game looks very amateur. It doesn't look professional at all. It looks like the kind of thing I would expect from a brand new company or someone who just came out of nowhere and is trying to do a free-to-play MMO, and this is their first one, and so they're trying to get some cash flow going so they could improve the game, you know. It does not look good, and so I apologize, because I really wanted to like it. I really did want a good D&D MMO. I have wanted a good D&D MMO for years, ever since, you know, Neverwinter Nights, the original, you know, back before the term MMO existed. Anyways, a couple more. Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, I think I mentioned that already. Yes, I did. But anyways, let's just summarize quickly. Lords of Shadow 2 looks great. They didn't show much gameplay, but the concepts look interesting. The CGI was, of course, fantastic. Really looking forward to that. And I guess I only have one left. I've been saving this for last on purpose. Star Wars 1313. And if my grin doesn't give it away, I am so psyched about this game. It looks so cool. Here's the catch. If they go too far, like the Lara Croft thing, if they go too far the wrong path, it's going to be bad, just like Lara Croft is. But I don't think they're going to. I think they have gone right up to the line of gritty and stopped, which is what you should do, because, in my opinion, because you're going to have a wider audience if you do that, first of all, and you're going to appeal to people like me who like gritty within reason, who like realism with moderation, who like it to still be fantasy, still be a video game, and still be able to enjoy this interactive medium, rather than thinking the whole time, oh god, you know. So I'm really looking forward to it. The very concept is so awesome. I can't believe they haven't done this type of game before, because there's, as I've said before in Why Would I Choose Star Wars to Live In, because the Star Wars is gargantuan. On Coruscant alone, the sheer amount of potential for doing all sorts of things is gargantuan, is huge, I don't have a word. Hugeness, Megan Mark II. There we go, that's what we're going to call that. And I'm really looking forward to this game a lot, probably more than any of these others on this list, with the possible exception of Paper Mario. And I really have high hopes for it, and so that is probably on my pre-order list. Of this list, only a few are on my pre-order list, and that is probably one of them right there. So, that was my thoughts on E3. I hope to do more videos tonight. It looks like they have left. I have to go clean up after them and do a little bit of paperwork, and then I'm going to go ahead and sit down and do another video. So, I'll talk to you guys later.